The Princess Royal weighs in on what kind of monarch his brother King Charles III will be. In a rare interview, Princess Anne says the crown won't change Charles, as she defended the relevance of the monarchy.
Word from within the palace is that Princess Anne has just delivered news that left both Prince William and Prince Harry reeling. King Charles, aware that his health situation was getting serious, made one last crucial decision before things got worse. And when it came time to break the news to his sons, he chose Anne to be his messenger. What exactly did the king decide? And why did he pick his sister for such a delicate task? Join us as we step inside the palace walls to uncover the decision that has rattled everyone. The king's last wish delivered. According to sources, the king had demanded that his two sons put their differences aside and make amends. Those who overheard Princess Anne's address mentioned that she framed the message as a polite request from the king. Staff, who had picked up the conversation, mentioned that Princess Anne didn't stop there. She made it crystal clear that King Charles sees the brothers' relationship as make or break for the entire royal family. He has been watching the family drama play out in the headlines for years now, and he is convinced that it has done severe damage to everything he's worked to protect. The constant back and forth between the brothers, the public accusations, and the tell-all interviews have been chipping away at how people view the royal family. It appears that the king believes the public quarrel between the two brothers makes the monarchy appear weak and unworkable. After years of other controversies and scandals, this sibling quarrel may be the final straw that would bring down the institution. Charles knows that split families don't instill confidence in people, especially when the family in question epitomizes tradition. Thus, his last wish was about family healing and institutional survival. The king's request was an emotionally loaded question. He touched a raw nerve that had been open for years. The differences were no longer just within the family. They had split out for all the world to see, leaving a trail of tension that no royal action can fully address. Misunderstandings, personal grievances, and opposing life choices stretched the trust between William and Harry to a fragile thread. All of them felt betrayed by the other somehow, and the mistrust between them has grown beyond what simple apologies can fix. Any chance at fixing this mess means both brothers have to face all the stuff that's already been thrown around in public. Think about it. Harry's book, those interviews, the Netflix series,
Harry and Meghan's Netflix docuseries.
When you would expect support from the people closest.
And all the information Harry had put out there have been picked apart by millions of people. Now they would have to sit down and talk about all that drama, but this time without cameras rolling or journalists taking notes. The whole situation gets even more complicated because so much dirty laundry has already been aired. How do brothers have an honest conversation when half their business has been splashed across tabloids for years? That kind of deadline doesn't precisely make heart-to-heart conversations easier, but it does make them unavoidable. Sometimes, the worst timing is the only timing that forces people to act. Why this message cuts deep? They would need to figure out what parts of their story are actually true versus what got twisted for TV. And that's not exactly easy when the trust between them is already broken. But here is the thing that changes everything. Charles is running out of time, and both William and Harry know it. The king's health situation means this isn't something they can keep putting off until next year, or whenever they feel like dealing with it. That adds a whole different kind of pressure, because nobody wants to be the reason their father doesn't get to see his sons make peace before he passes. So now they are stuck in this impossible spot where they have to rush into healing years of damage, knowing that if they wait too long, Charles might not be around to see it happen. When Harry and Meghan announced that they would no longer be members of the royal family, it was one of the most dramatic royal splits in the history of the world. Harry mentioned he wanted to be free from the shackles of royal duties and wanted freedom for himself. The couple had hoped to encourage talks and debate about freedom, racism, and the rigidity within the royal household. However, things did not go as they had planned. Over the months and years that followed, Harry and Meghan talked at length about their mental health battles, making public allegations about how badly they had been treated by the institution, which, by implication, includes the members of the family, Harry's brother and his wife. He mentioned that Meghan received minimal support when she went through unrelenting media intrusion. Each revelation only poured fuel on an already simmering fire, driving the couple even further away from the heart of royal circles. William ended up getting hit the hardest when Harry left. Suddenly, he's doing twice the work. It must have been an awful experience for William, who had to put on a brave face and continue with his royal duties while his only brother was out there on podcasts and TV shows doing quite the opposite. When William turns up to cut a ribbon or visit a hospital, there is this silent elephant in the room, of course, about his brother. Now, everything about the royal family is out there, and it has created a royal mess that the public has to pick apart. It is against this backdrop of clashing values and public scrutiny that William's own feelings come into focus. With every headline and interview widening the gap between the brothers, how does the future king balance the demands of duty with the ache of a fractured bond? The brothers' perspective. For William, allegiance to the crown is not just a duty, but an integral part of who he is. He knows, or has known since he was a boy, that his life belongs as much to the institution as to history, and these have both guided his choices and his public persona, and tied him to the expectations and obligations of the king he is set to become. To William, it was as if Harry had dumped the family and the duty they had been brought up to bear. He once said that he realized his brother wanted his independence from the institution and desired to have a private life. Still, he believed the family was part of the institution, and walking away from it was tantamount to walking away from their family. What stung even more were the public criticisms that followed. The interviews and statements made by Harry and Meghan often landed, in William's view, as direct blows to the monarchy's integrity. Each remark questioning the institution's values or conduct was not just a challenge to the tradition but also a wound inflicted on the very structure he had dedicated his life to protect. Despite this, those who are close to him are aware of the heartache his brother's actions have caused him. He is stuck in this impossible situation where a part of him really wants his brother back.
Prince Harry is the spare to his brother, the future King William.
But he also has to consider the monarchy. The thing is, William does miss having his brother in his life. They went through a lot together after Diana's passing. But he recognizes that his position as the first child entails significant responsibilities. While his brother can choose to walk away from everything, he has an obligation to the crown. Harry's experience inside the royal family was basically like being trapped in a fancy prison. Sure, there were perks and privileges everywhere, but it came with this suffocating feeling that nothing he said really mattered. Every decision had to fit into some ancient rule book that nobody ever asked if he wanted to follow in the first place. The whole royal lifestyle is built around ceremonies and protocols that made him feel more like he was playing a character than actually living his own life. What really ate at him was watching his identity disappear bit by bit. Everything became about the crown and duty, while his real personality got pushed further into the background. The frustration built up over the years, and the breaking point came with the unrelenting glare of the media. Harry believed his family could have done more to shield him and his wife from the press's attacks. Instead, they did the same thing that destroyed his mother. In some cases, they allowed the damaging narratives in the media to remain unchallenged. Stepping away was not just stepping down. It was survival. He saw it as the only way to preserve his own sanity and shield Meghan, not to mention their children, from the relentless spotlight that also caused so much damage to his mother. It is therefore not strange that he has remained cautious about stepping back into any form of royal life, even if it is his father's last wish. But Charles knew that getting through to Harry would require someone special, someone who could bridge the gap between his stubborn sons and decades of built-up resentment, who could possibly have enough credibility with both brothers to make this work. Princess Anne as the bridge. Charles didn't just randomly pick Princess Anne to deliver this bombshell message. He knew exactly what he was doing. Anne's built a reputation over the years for keeping her mouth shut when it matters and staying level-headed even when family drama gets completely out of hand. She doesn't let her feelings mess with her judgment, which made her perfect for handling something this sensitive. In a family where every single word gets twisted by the media and everyone's always questioning each other's motives, Charles needed someone he could trust completely. Anne's loyalty has never been in doubt, and she's got her way of commanding respect without making people suspicious about hidden agendas. That's exactly what this situation called for. What makes Anne different is that she has survived all kinds of personal stuff and public criticism without falling apart or lashing out. That kind of toughness doesn't go unnoticed in a family that's constantly under scrutiny. She's proven over and over that she can handle pressure without losing her cool or saying something stupid that ends up in the tabloids the next day. The thing about Anne is that when she opens her mouth, people actually pay attention because they know she's not wasting their time with nonsense. She doesn't talk just to hear herself speak, and she doesn't play the political games that other royals get sucked into. That gives her a kind of authority that's pretty rare in that family. However, nothing in the royal family is kept under wraps for too long. King Charles's comments were supposed to be a private family conversation, but within days, the conversation Anne had with the two brothers was leaked to royal bloggers. As soon as word broke of the king's last request, social media lit up with predictions that Harry would soon be back in the royal family. The reaction was all over the place. Some people got genuinely excited about the possibility of seeing the brothers together again, remembering how close they used to be. Others rolled their eyes and figured this was just another round of royal drama that wouldn't lead anywhere. The internet basically split into camps, those rooting for a fairy tale reunion and those who think too much damage has been done. The whole world is basically waiting to see if Charles's final message will actually change anything or if it was just wishful thinking. But with this level of scrutiny on every move they make, William and Harry are stuck trying to heal their relationship while millions of people watch and judge their every gesture. That's got to be incredibly difficult for anyone trying to work through family issues. The genesis of the media battle. The attacks on Meghan started way before most people realized how bad things would get. Back in 2016, the Mail Online published this incredibly tone-deaf piece about her family background with the headline, "Almost Straight Outta Compton," which was so offensive that Harry's own press team had to step in and say something. That should have been everyone's first clue about how ugly this was going to become. Things got even messier when Harry and Meghan secretly helped with a tell-all book called Finding Freedom that came out during all their drama with the royal family. At first, they completely denied having anything to do with it, but then, during Meghan's lawsuit against the Mail, it became pretty obvious they'd been feeding information to the authors through other people. That whole situation made them look dishonest and gave their critics more ammunition. The lawsuit itself was a massive deal because Meghan was going after Associated Newspapers for publishing parts of a private letter she had written to her dad. The case dragged on for months, keeping all the family drama in the headlines, which probably wasn't helping anyone involved. It became a public spectacle where every detail of their fractured relationship was dissected in court documents. What's wild is how all these legal battles and media fights were happening while Harry and Meghan were supposedly trying to step back from public life. Instead of getting the privacy they claimed to want, they ended up more in the spotlight than ever, just for all the wrong reasons. The legal battle dragged on for months, and at first, it wasn't looking great for Meghan. In May 2020, the court basically threw out her claims that the Mail had been dishonest or malicious, saying those accusations were too vague and didn't really matter for the case anyway. But Meghan's team kept pushing, focusing on the privacy angle instead of trying to prove the newspaper had bad intentions. Eventually, persistence paid off. By February 2021, the High Court ruled that publishing those letter excerpts was definitely an invasion of privacy, and a few months later, Meghan officially won her case for misuse of private information and copyright infringement. It was a rare win against the British tabloids, but it came after years of public family drama that probably hurt everyone involved more than any legal victory could fix. Meghan's win in court was only one chapter in a much bigger battle. After years of harassment, false headlines, and even threats to her safety, the question became whether any legal victory could truly change how the British press treats her. Meghan's legal victory costs. The court didn't just rule in Meghan's favor. They made sure she got paid for all the trouble. She received £450,000 up front to cover part of her massive $1.5 million legal bill, which gives a sense of just how expensive this whole fight became. Her lawyers also demanded that the Mail on Sunday and Mail Online run a front-page apology acknowledging that she'd won, which had to sting for a newspaper that probably thought it would never have to admit they were wrong. Of course, the Mail wasn't going down without more of a fight. They launched an appeal in November 2021, probably hoping different judges might see things their way. But that backfired spectacularly when 3 senior appeal judges looked at the case and basically said the original ruling was spot on. After that second loss, Meghan started pushing for bigger changes to how tabloids operate in general, using her victory as a platform to call out the entire industry. The terms of the final settlement confirm just how much the Mail was beaten in the legal battle. They were compelled to print the statement on their front page on Boxing Day, which is one of the worst days for a newspaper ever to admit it was wrong. The tabloid attacks on Meghan, however, continued and reached high levels pretty quickly. In November 2016, The Sun ran a completely false headline claiming they had explicit clips of her. The newspaper tried to act like they hadn't done anything wrong, but eventually had to issue an apology months later in February 2017 when everyone called them out on their lies. Things got seriously scary in February 2018 when someone sent a letter filled with white powder and a racist note directly to St. James's Palace addressed to Meghan. By January 2020, things had gotten so out of hand that Harry and Meghan's legal team had to issue a general warning to the entire press about publishing paparazzi photos. It wasn't normal celebrity coverage anymore. It was systematic persecution that was putting real people in real danger. By early 2020, the tension between the Sussexes and the press had shifted from aggressive coverage to what their team described as outright persecution. So when damaging allegations against Meghan suddenly surfaced just days before her most high-profile interview, was it coincidence or a calculated move to shape the narrative? Palace staff bullying claims. Right before the explosive Oprah interview was set to air, some seriously damaging stories about Meghan started hitting the press. The Times published a report claiming that Jason Knopf, who used to handle communications for Meghan, had filed an official complaint back in October 2018. According to him, Meghan's behavior at Kensington Palace was so bad that 2 personal assistants actually quit their jobs, and a 3rd employee was getting seriously rattled by the whole situation. When the allegations did arrive, Buckingham Palace meant business. They called in an external law firm to look into the claims. Ultimately, this involved 10 of the palace employees, and they all agreed Meghan was a bully and would rather not work for her. The timing was obviously suspicious, since all this came out just as Meghan was about to tell her side of the story to Oprah. But there was more drama. At the exact same time, another story broke about Meghan wearing earrings that were apparently gifts from Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. She'd worn them twice in 2018, which became a huge problem when people remembered that he had been accused of unaliving a journalist called Jamal Khashoggi. The optics were absolutely terrible, even when Meghan claimed she had no idea about the allegations when she wore the jewelry. The timing couldn't have been more controversial, with both the bullying claims and the Saudi earring story exploding just as Meghan was preparing to face Oprah. Did she finally reveal the truth as she saw it, or ignite an even bigger royal firestorm? Oprah interview drops bombshells. When Oprah's interview finally aired on March 7, 2021, it was everything people expected and more. Meghan didn't hold back, talking about how the pressure of royal life had pushed her to some seriously dark places, including having thoughts about unaliving herself. She also went after the palace for failing to protect her son from all the harassment they had been dealing with. The whole thing split public opinion right down the middle. Some people felt terrible for what she'd gone through, while others thought she was just trying to trash the royal family. Things got even more complicated when the authors of the Finding Freedom book came back with new information. In an updated version, they claimed that 2 of the people mentioned in Jason Knopf's original bullying complaint had asked for their allegations to be withdrawn. That's a pretty big deal if it's true, since it suggests the whole bullying story might not have been as solid as it first appeared. Meghan's legal team kept pushing back hard against the bullying claims. Jenny Afia, the same lawyer who had helped her win against the Mail on Sunday, went on a BBC documentary and flat out said the allegations were just not true. But here's the thing. The palace clearly found something worth addressing because they ended up changing some of their HR policies based on whatever their investigation turned up. The palace decided to keep the actual investigation results secret, saying they wanted to protect the privacy of everyone who participated. That's probably smart from a legal standpoint, but it also means nobody really knows what they found. Did Meghan actually bully staff? Or was this whole thing just palace politics getting nasty? Without seeing the report, it's basically impossible to know who's telling the truth about what really happened behind those palace walls. Do you think Harry would respect the last wish of his father and forgive the royal family? Or do you think the injury cuts too deep and he has finally gotten the peace he and his wife deserve? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.